Hi, welcome to this screencast on Poem at 39 by Alice Walker. This is part of your Anthology C section, which is part of your literature certificate. This poem focuses on Alice Walker's relationship with her father. She has said that it is semi-autobiographical, and it is a piece about love between parent and children. First, some things to think about before we begin. What do you like or love most about your parents? Come on, there has to be at least one thing. Now, what about their failings? Make a mental list. Don't write them down. They might find it. How much are you like your parents? Make a mental list of similarities. A few more things to think about. Before reading the poem, what do you think about the title? What does it suggest about the speaker? Poem at 39. Remember, when writing about the structure of the poem, you can write about the title. After reading, come back to this slide and think about these questions. What does the poem say about her experience of life? Her understanding of herself or other people? Her appreciation of her parents that she didn't have earlier in life? Her forgiveness of her dad? Something else. Perhaps Walker is leaving her youth behind at the age of 39. Let's take a look at the poem. In your anthologies, it's on page 65. It begins, "How I miss my father. I wish he had not been so tired when I was born. Writing deposit slips and checks, I think of him. He taught me how. This is the form, he must have said, the way it is done. I learned to see bits of paper as a way to escape the life he knew, and even in high school had a savings account. He taught me that telling the truth did not always mean a beating, though many of my truths must have grieved him before the end. How I miss my father. He cooked like a person dancing in a yoga meditation and craved the voluptuous sharing of good food. Now I look and cook just like him, my brain light, tossing this and that into the pot, seasoning none of my life the same way twice, happy to feed whoever strays my way. He would have grown to admire the woman I've become, cooking, writing, chopping wood, staring into the fire." A few notes about the structure, and as you know, we use SLIME to analyze our poetry: structure, language, imagery, meaning, and effect. This is written in first-person point of view. Now, normally we say it's not necessarily the poet who is the persona, but in this case, since we know the poem is semi-autobiographical, we can say that Walker is the persona of the poem. It's divided into 6 stanzas. They vary in length, so it's not a very regular structure, although if you'll look, there's one stanza in particular, the second one, that is longer than the others. It's narrative in style. It sounds like she's talking to us as if she's telling a story, and she uses punctuation. This poem is told through sentences. In the first stanza, she establishes a mood of regret. It's almost 2 instances of regret. She misses her father, that's the first regret, but then she also says that I wish he had not been so tired when I was born. What could that mean? In stanza 2, she begins to focus on money. She thinks about a specific experience that they had. He taught her how to write out deposit slips and checks. When you go into a bank and if you want to deposit money, you fill out a deposit slip, similar to the image that you see on the screen. And then you submit that with the money that you are paying into your account. And she is saying that he showed her how to do this. Have a think about why she would mention this in her poem. When is money really important to people? When you have it or when you don't? What do you think about her father at this point in the poem? Does he sound nice or strict? Or both? Continuing with stanza 2. She says that she learned to see bits of paper as a way to escape the life he knew, and even in high school had a savings account. The bits of paper she's talking about are the deposits of slips, the checks, perhaps even money, dollars, as she is in America, and this is taking place in America. So he has a huge influence on her from an early age. She opened up a bank account when she was in high school, which would be the equivalent of years 10, 11, 12, and 13. Was it a good influence? What about the word escape? To escape the life that he knew. Now, she's not saying he escaped. She's saying that the bits of paper were her way to escape his life. What do you think that means? In stanza 3, we have a hint of danger, the word beating, and the word always. He taught me that telling the truth did not always mean a beating. So obviously there were times when she did tell the truth and did receive a beating. And then after the semicolon, it's very interesting, the semicolon is used there. Though many of my truths must have grieved him before the end. So some of her truth, some of the things about her grieved her father. There's also the hint of death here with the verb grieved, because of course she could say, although many of my truths must have made him sad, but she chooses the word grieved, and that connects in the fact that her father has passed away, which we know because of the repetition, how I miss my father. Is there a connection then between truth and death? In stanza 4, she makes an interesting comparison using this simile. He cooked like a person dancing in a yoga meditation. You see that I've put some images there of different yoga positions. What does this tell you about her father and the way that he cooked? She also, in this stanza, talks about the positive qualities of her father. It looks like he really enjoyed cooking and he liked sharing good food with people. Lots of imagery here. Now, the imagery is juxtaposed, which is contrasted, with the violence of the previous stanza. There's quite a contrast between the two stanzas. I've underlined both the words imagery and juxtaposed, as those are good terms to understand and use in your exam answers. Overall, what would you say her father was like? In stanza 5, she begins to say that she is like her father. Think about if this means she is like her father in a positive way, a negative way, or perhaps even both. But she also suggests that being like her father has made her life a little bit random. So she says, now I look and cook just like him, my brain light, tossing this and that into the pot, seasoning none of my life the same way twice, happy to feed whoever strays my way. It's interesting the use of the colon there. So the rest of the stanza, from my brain light until the end, is the explanation of now I look and cook just like him. So perhaps she does something that he did, cooks, and she's wondering about their relationship. She also says that she's happy to feed whoever comes her way, so he must have done that as well. You'll see that there's a semantic field of words associated with cooking. Semantic field is a category of words. I've highlighted this for you in red. In stanza 6, she says that he would have grown to admire the woman that she has become. And then another colon and a list of 4 things that she does: cooking, writing, chopping wood, and staring into the fire. Think about these qualities. Perhaps he would only admire her because they were things that she did. And then finally, the symbol of fire at the very end. What could that represent? A little bit of information on Walker that might help you understand the poem. Alice Walker was divorced before she was 40. Some critics think that this poem is thinking about the need for a father for her daughter. Now, Walker's father was a sharecropper and a farmer who owned a very small amount of money every year. A sharecropper means that he didn't own his farm. He just was able to work on a farm and make money from the crops that he was able to grow. Her writing often emphasizes power and achievements of women. By the way, If you're interested, she's very famous for a book that she published in 1982 called The Color Purple. It was also made into a film. Now we need to think about connections to other poems. As you may remember, I hope you remember, for this part of the exam you will have to compare poems. Two themes in this poem that you could connect to other poems: the theme of childhood and parent-child relationships, and the theme of nostalgic remembrance, because of course she is looking back. Have a think about which poems would connect to these two themes. Now, finally, it's your turn. Before you go into your next lesson, write down your answers to these two questions. Be prepared to discuss them in class. The first one is this: how could you describe the language of this poem? And please don't just write down that it's written in English. That is not what I mean. Is the language simple or complex? What is the tone of the language? Does the tone change throughout the poem? Next, think about the effect of the poem. Remember, the effect can be what it makes the reader feel or what it makes the reader think.